Happy to have my next guest back on the show. It's the Juice Box, Julius Walker, who picked up a unanimous decision victory this past weekend at UFC Vegas 109 over Rafael Cerquera. Julius, always a pleasure to talk to you, my man. And you got that first official UFC win. How good does that feel?
Dude, it feels absolutely incredible. Super happy to have that in the bag. Now I got to beat somebody that has a win on the roster.
I'm sure that's right around the corner, my man. And how would you rate your overall performance? It was definitely a UD win, but you had to overcome some adversity in this fight. There were some moments where, Cerquera, I thought maybe had you in a little bit of trouble. How accurate is that? Like how much trouble were you in the fight?
I would say like at the beginning of the third round, it would be hard for me to sit here and say I wasn't in any trouble. He had his foot on the gas and he had landed some good shots and he even hit that shot that made me do the little chicken dance in the cage. So that stuff is like optically from like the outside perspective, it clearly looks, not good. And then even in the first round, he was doing pretty well with the 1-2. I was throwing a lot of blind kicks. I think I threw way too many kicks with nothing in front of him, and he landed that 1-2 a lot. But I would say, dude, I would say overall, I felt solid with it. I felt better about it after I went and watched it back. But it's definitely, I think it's good for me because for one, I got more experience, more cage time. I was able to get the win, and there's still a ton for me to go back and look at and work on. It's not like it was a thing where I went in there and it was, 1 or 2 minutes and I was right out. I come out with a ton of more stuff to work on and a ton to learn from.
And I'm sure with how early you are in your UFC career, it's important to go the 15 minutes to overcome some adversity and really kind of dig deep to get the win.
100%. And I'm early in my career in general. So, like coming into the UFC, the longest fight I'd had as a pro was 7 minutes. So having going 15 minutes twice in a row, for one, it helps with the confidence and knowing that I can do that, and for two, it helps with just the experience of actually doing it.
For sure. And obviously, this being a mixed martial arts fight, you prepare for everything that can happen, stand up, whether it goes to the ground. It, I'm curious if I'm on the right track with this here, because it seemed like maybe initially the game plan looking was to strike, to use your range. And then maybe it seemed like, okay, maybe I'm not having the success I wanted on the feet. Let me take this to the ground where I might have a bigger advantage. Because you mentioned how strong you are for this division. Is that accurate? Did you kind of switch up things with the game plan?
Yeah, I'd say coming into it, the number one thing that I like the buzzword that I used to describe my game plan would just be to pressure him. From watching his first two UFC fights, it seemed like he has a tendency to give ground a little bit, and he didn't do super well, especially whenever he got put against the cage. Both Modestus and Ebo were able to knock him out by putting him against the cage and just unloading. So whenever coming into the fight, I was like, I just got to put pressure on him, get him against the cage. I might be able to rock him and get a KO, or I'll be able to shoot in and take him down and be dominant there. I'd say once we started fighting and I locked up with him the first time, I definitely felt like, okay, I feel good about this. Like, some there's the stuff he was doing in the clinch and all that. I was like, man, I know. I like feeling like his hips and everything like that. I was like, dude, I can definitely get this guy down, and I think I can hold him there. Um, and then that's definitely what it turned into. And like it was weird. There was a lot of the fight where he was like pulling me into him on top, and stuff like that, where he didn't show a ton of urgency about getting up until the third round. So that part was a little odd, but it is what it is. I was happy with like some of the success I had in some positions, but I felt like I rushed too much, so I didn't get the finish and didn't do as much damage as I should.
Yeah, DC said that during the commentary too, like with the submission attempts, like you were rushing a little bit you're too eager there. Do you see that looking back, like, man, I wish I would have slowed up just a little bit and gone for this submission attempt maybe a little bit more?
Dude, I from watching my fight with the commentary, there were like, and it's funny because even in Seattle as well, when I fought Menafield, there were things that the commentator said that I was like, oh man, and I actually really took note of it. And DC saying that, watching it back, I really was like, wow, I'm literally just like trying to rush to the next thing and go so fast. It was like just settle into some things more. And I've had some people tell me that in the training room before too. So I definitely thought there was a lot of truth to that. And there's a few things that Cruz was saying that I was taking note of as well that I think are going to be helpful going down the road.
Both of those guys obviously legends, and they're a wealth of knowledge. With DC, being the former double champ, the champ of the weight class that you're competing in, have you thought about maybe getting some training in with him down the line? Is that something that you'd hope to have come to fruition?
Dude, that would be a dream. That'd be a dream come true, man. That would be super cool. You know, and like especially with his wrestling game, I think that there would be a ton for me to learn there.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So how'd you celebrate the win? What'd you go out and do? I know your birthday was recent. Your coach's birthday was at the same night as the fight. So what'd you guys get into afterwards?
Dude, we went over to so we were all at Palace Station and we went up and we ate there. And then, we went out to Fremont for a little bit. I was on Fremont for probably, gosh, I don't know how long. And then I was like, dude, I can't even hear anything. So we're going over to the strip, went to the strip for a little bit, but man, I'm a lightweight these days. So like I had one peach painkiller over on Fremont Street. I was about ready to go home.
Okay, what's a peach painkiller? What's in that?
Dude, Lord knows. I don't even know. But all I know is this guy went to pour when he goes to pour the drink. It's the like cowgirl up thing on it's on a Fremont somewhere. It's like the cowgirl up cantina. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And I probably look like an absolute doofus going there. But this guy pours this drink, man, and he has his little shot glass and he starts pouring it and he's like letting it overflow and he doesn't stop pouring the whole time. I'm like, dude, this guy's trying to kill me. I don't know what's going on here.
I haven't been to Vegas in a while. It's probably a good thing for me. How often do you drink? Like if you are in camp, do you ever drink at all?
No, and I honestly, even if I wasn't in camp, like I just don't really like. It's not something that's like it's not something that interests me a ton. You know what I mean? My wife isn't super into it, so it's like I almost never drink. It's 90% of I would say in the last like 3 or 4 years of my life, almost every single time that I've drank has probably just been after a fight. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much like this year. I think I've drank on the in Seattle and this time, and every time it's like I'm just a baby. I'm a baby.
I hear you, man. The older you get to, the harder it is to bounce back the next day. What a more, I guess, a question that would make more sense, I guess, for you and just for most people. Like, what is the go-to food wise post fight? Like, is there something specific that like you are jonesing for that you can't eat during camp?
Man, that's tough. There's a whole list. When I'm in Springfield, I go to get a burrito quesadilla from one of the local places called I Love Tacos. I'm always at some point going to get some pizza. I'm a sweets guy, so I got to eat lots of sweets too. This one specifically, because it was in Vegas, I really wanted to go to Yardbird in the Venetian and eat the chicken and waffles. That place is really good. Like I don't know. I've definitely been pushing it since the fight. I think I got on the scale this morning and it was in the upper 240s. So we've been doing some damage.
Whoa. Okay. What were you on fight night? Do you know after you weighed in and rehydrated what you were?
Probably like I was probably 235 in the cage or like 230 like it probably 235 honestly. They had me weigh right left the um before we left the hotel to go to the venue. And I didn't like take my shoes off or anything. And I just weighed and everything, like shoes and, all my clothes. But I weighed 240. And I was
It's
like, dear Lord.
it's incredible how much you guys can cut and make weight. I don't know how you do it. I can't remember if I asked you this the first time we spoke, but do you see down the line you just fighting at heavyweight and that just calling it a day with cutting weight?
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I think the discipline of it helps me a little bit. Like having to make the weight. I think it's a good thing for me. And dude, some of those heavyweights are freaking big, man. I would either just be in there chunky if I wanted to be as big as them, or I would have to like put on some muscle.
Okay. Well, you're a pretty big boy yourself. I mean, I feel like if you did put on some muscle, you could compete just fine at heavyweight. You got the height, you got the reach. Let me ask you this. After this big win, were you getting noticed out on the strip? Did you get stopped for any autographs or pictures?
I mean, maybe like two. It was funny in Seattle. There was way more of that, just because like, um, in Seattle, they hadn't had a fight there in I think 12 years was the last time there was UFC fights there. Vegas, it's monthly and they see fighters there all the time. And half the time in Vegas, like if you tell someone or if someone mentions that you're a UFC fighter, they'll be like, "Oh, I met this guy this one time or that guy that one time." So it's definitely a different ball game.
No, for sure. You mentioned Seattle. So let me ask you, man, the last time that we did speak was before the Alonzo Menifield fight. It was
Mhm.
a really close fight, it was split decision loss. You definitely showed that you belong here. And that was your debut on short notice against a really tough veteran. What were the big takeaways from that fight that you and your team had?
Man, a couple of the big ones for me was to not let the moment get to me. To think about like when I think about each round, like I heard Cruz say this on commentary a few weeks ago, but each round is like an individual mini fight, if you will. And thinking about ending them better than starting them, I thought that was a big takeaway for me in Seattle. I thought that almost every single round Alonzo ended better than I did. He would usually typically win the last minute of every round, and I think that goes a long way. And getting them on the judges' scorecards. And then just like making a style that's sustainable for 15 minutes. I think those were probably the biggest things that I took straight away from that one.
How did you feel actually fighting in the UFC in front of the cameras and the crowd? Like, was that different than anything you've experienced before?
Yeah, drastically different. Seattle was crazy because it was like, I mean, 18,000 people, like the energy in there was great from the moment that I got to the arena, which I think when I got to the arena it was during the third fight, which I believe was the Vanderford fight. And like it was the energy in there was jumping. It was crazy. It was on a whole nother ball game from anything I've ever experienced.
Well, better get used to it. You're going to be in those arenas packed with screaming fans for years to come. What has life been like since, man? The time off in between the Alonzo fight and then this one with Sakara. What were you up to? What did you do in between those two fights?
I'd say after the Alonzo fight I took maybe 2 weeks at the most of just hanging out at home, and then I got back to it pretty quickly. I was pretty motivated after that fight, big time, and I just knew that there was a lot that needed to be done. It was like we're on a new level now. Um, and I originally was hoping to get back in like June or July. And I really got back into it, going pretty hard. In April, I went out and trained at Factory X for a few weeks. I went to Vegas for a week in June and a week in July. We got this fight at the beginning of May, so it was like 3 full months from the actual date of the fight. So that was really cool. Being able to like, it was like I built into my camp, and then for the last 8 weeks, I was able to push really hard because I'd already been training with the last 8 weeks in mind for 5 weeks. So it was pretty sweet going into it.
How long were you at Factory X for?
3 weeks.
That's awesome, man. I love those guys. I've had a chance to interview a lot of the fighters that trained there for a while.
I
Who were you
see I see
going with the
DJ.
most?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
see DJ's jacket back there.
yeah, he sent that to me. He's such a cool guy. DJ, Cody, Yusuf, like there's so many good guys that are there. It just seems like a good place to be at. Is that something that you hope to do again? And who did you get working with when you were there?
Dude, Factory X was awesome. I trained with DJ probably the most, I would say. Out of everyone. It was when I was out there, it was like I went, I think 2 or 3 weeks before UFC Kansas City, which was Anthony Smith's retirement fight. So I trained with him a little bit, but he was kind of in his last like 2 weeks before the fight. So it's not like it was just like we probably rolled a few rounds and like drilled together a few times in a few different classes. And I trained with Cody Brundage, a good amount too out there. So I was pretty hyped whenever he got added to the card, short notice. And it was good to see everybody because like I saw Coach Montoya and all the guys that were up there for Cody's fight, which was really sweet. It was, dude, that place was a really good time, and I learned a ton there.
So you're definitely going to go back in the future.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we always have to see what happens and everything and work it out logistically. That's the type of thing that would be way easier on the second contract.
Sure, understood. Um, as far as Cody goes, I don't know if you saw the fight with McConaughey. That was the first fight of the night. What were your thoughts on the decision?
I personally thought that Cody had won the fight. It was definitely like the rounds were close, but I just thought that like in terms of the bigger moments where, geez, dropped it again. That
Oh
was
well.
twice now, and that's funny. That's funny. But there were like I thought Cody had bigger moments in that fight, and I thought that like overall he just like I understand there's a good amount of cage wrestling and stuff like that, but I don't know. I thought Cody had the slightly bigger moments. I thought the scorecards were a little weird because I'm pretty sure one of the ones that scored the fight for McConaughey gave him the first round, and I thought that was probably the clearest round out of all three that Cody won because he kind of hurt him a few times. But it is what it is for
Yeah.
for that one.
Just a reminder never to let it go to the judges. If you do, make sure that you have been dominant throughout because you just never know what they are looking at. I also wanted to get your thoughts, Julius, on what the UFC just did with Paramount Plus and CBS, that $7 billion deal. Like it's absolutely bananas. What are your thoughts for like the future of this organization? Do you believe it's just going to probably get bigger and bigger and grow as much as it possibly can?
Yeah, I think it clearly means there's more opportunity. It's moving into a more like easily accessible audience. And if you look at like the other top American professional sports, they've always been on one of those networks like that. I think the biggest thing is like the fact that, they're saying that the numbered events will, which is, I guess that's what we're calling pay-per-views now is numbered events. But Dana also said pay-per-view ain't dead. But the numbered events being on CBS, like a network like that, that's definitely a big deal. It's just it puts you more in the spotlight. I think as a fighter, it's pretty clear from the fighter perspective. You have to look at the being in the UFC as an opportunity more than a career, regardless of how the fighters feel about that. You have to make the most of every opportunity that you're given. And it's an opportunity to be in front of more eyes and there's more money being injected into the sport. So I think it's important to don't assume that you're just going to start getting more money. Uh, find a way to get yourself more money. So that's definitely I would say my biggest thought on it is it's like find a way to get yourself in front of people, and you know what I mean. Whenever you get that chance, you got to use it.
Mhm. Do you think that there's going to come a time soon where the UFC will be lumped into that same group as like the big four, the NBA, the NFL, NHL, and MLB? Do you think that the UFC could be the fifth?
Maybe, but I do think it would be a little bit tough because it's always going to be a little bit of a niche as far as combat sports go, as far as, dudes fighting in a cage. There's always going to be a good amount of people that it's a little bit too brutal for them. But I think that the UFC has already gone a really long way with becoming one of probably I would say it's got to be the top combat sport in the United States.
Oh,
I don't know about worldwide because of, the popularity of boxing worldwide, but I would say that it's definitely like continuing to take over that combat sports market and dominate with the young men and become one of those things that's like tied in with the NFL stuff like
mhm.
that.
Have you been doing any hooping lately since we last spoke?
Dude, 100%. I'm always playing here and there. I'm always I sometimes I'll play in the local men's league, you know what I mean? I've always got to cut that out as I get a little bit closer to the fights, and
You,
it's funny because I usually have to be forced to cut it out. I usually have to be told like, "Hey, dude, stop going to your no more men's leagues games," and I'm like, "Okay, fine."
you don't want a Jamal Hill situation.
No, but here's the thing with that. I think that was a situation of him playing ball when he was out of shape and he wasn't conditioned to play it. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think it keeps me going and it keeps me athletic.
Yeah, for sure. So have you had anyone kind of like come back at you say when you've said like you're the best basketball player in the UFC? Like who's been chirping? Like who wants the smoke?
Phil Rao says that he's the best basketball player in the UFC. One of these days, me and him will play one on one. Three dribbles game to probably 11 or something like that. We'll get a little one on one game going and see who's the best. But really, you know what I mean. We're trying to make the UFC basketball team, and with this team, what I'm thinking personally, because really I just need the right people to also have this idea. But you have like there's a UFC team, there's an NFL team. Originally, I was just going to challenge the NFL, but then I kind of thought twice, and I was like, dude, that's going to be really hard. Those guys are going to be good. Why don't I make it a tournament? So you got the NFL, you got us, you got like the MLB, maybe like the NHL, something like that. Little four team tournament, 4 team basketball tournament, make it for charity or something. Let's run it, let's see what. And I've also been thinking about bench players for the UFC basketball team. One of the first, because I already got my starting five. One of the first names that somebody suggested to me was WCA, the Waldo
Oh,
Salsa
okay.
Boy, Waldo
Yeah.
Cortez Acosta. I was like, yeah, I think that's a good idea because I mean that dude played in the MLB. He's a big dude and he's an athlete. So, we'll probably snag him and I still got to get back to it. I got to build out this roster and we need a coach.
So you and Phil, obviously in the starting lineup. Who are the other three?
Danny Barlow, I've heard that he can hoop. Cyril Gahn and CLD,
C
Christian
CL.
Leroy Duncan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
From he the he I Somebody told me that he was apparently he's another basketball guy. And I asked him and he fought on this card here in Vegas. I asked him, I was like, I need you. You're signed to the basketball team. And he told me he was a point guard. And that's what we need right now. We need a point guard. So, I like it. I like how the team's looking, man. We're
Okay.
building out nice.
I like it. I like it a lot. I think that would be very cool if you could get something like that going. I would be all on board. You know me, we've talked before. I'm a basketball junkie. I actually just took my nephew to the Cooper Flag camp this past weekend.
Ooh.
Man, he is nasty. It's crazy to think. I mean, he's like 6'9" and he
Mhm.
moves like a guard. He can play multiple positions, guard multiple positions. I think he legitimately could be like an NBA All-Star for years and years to come. Some people
100%.
around here, because he's from like close to my hometown, say he's going to
Mhm.
be like the next LeBron. I'm like, all right, pump the brakes. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we don't need to go that far, but I
Are
think
you
he
from
could.
Maine?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. My
Yeah.
my mom's family is from Maine too. So Cooper Flag's a big deal up there.
Yeah. Where in Maine are they from?
My mom is from Oakfield
Okay. Yeah, that's
up
like
there.
Waterville area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So do you ever come up to Maine and visit?
It's been a super duper long time. My grandparents are actually up there right now.
Okay.
But it's been a super long time. We want to go back up there because now like my wife's family has never been to Maine
Mhm.
and like they all want to try a lobster roll. And I'm like, dude, it's the place to do it.
If you come, make sure you send me a message. We'll have
Yeah,
to get together. I'll show you around for sure. I'll even bring you up to campus and get you to dunk on some of the D1 players up there.
let's go.
Uh, Let me ask you a couple more questions before we get you out of here, man. Time frame of your next fight. When would you like to get back in there? And do you prefer to have a camp right now? I mean, obviously, with you being so early on in your career, you want to be kind of selective as to like taking smart fights, right? So are you going to jump at a short notice opportunity or does it just matter who the opponent would be?
As soon as I mean, I'm gonna get back to training as soon as possible and get myself in shape. If it's a good opportunity, short notice, I've taken a lot of short notice fights over the course of my career in general, so I'm always kind of down for that. I would say right now, I really want to fight by the end of the year, so I'm really hoping to fight in December if possible. I think that would be pretty sweet. And like as far as an opponent goes, somebody that I've said a couple times now, well, like just in a few different interviews, I think somebody that makes sense would be Tokos, just because both coming off wins, both newer guys in the division, both have pretty solid grappling. So I think that you've got a chance that maybe our grappling cancels out, and we just have to have a stand-up fight.
Do you have a prediction for that fight if it does get made?
I win.
How do you
I win, and I think that one. Then I think I could get my first UFC finish in that fight too.
okay? Do you see that via TKO or you subbing him?
Man, it depends on how tough he is.
Okay.
I feel pretty confident there though. I think I got like a little bit of a physicality advantage. I think I'm a better athlete. I think that's going to be the case for most everybody in the division though. And I think that over the course of the fight, I'll be able to kind of wear on him, uh, and then probably get the finish. Second round.
Yeah, you are a problem. There's no doubt about it. The division is on notice, my man. Can't wait to see you back in there. Let me get a couple fight picks before we get out of here today. This weekend, the middleweight strap is on the line. Dricus versus Chimaev. Who do you got there? How does it end?
Man, I want Dreykus to win just because dude, he that dude seems cool, man. And honestly, he kind of cracks me up with just his whole everything he's got going on. So I'm gonna pick him to go out there DDP by a let's go with the fourth round TKO.
Okay. And then at UFC 320, the rematch, Ankalaev and Poatan. What do you see happening there?
I was actually at 313. I think Ankalaev probably wins that fight again. It's dude, I don't know I'm interested to see how Pereira attacks the rematch because in that first fight he just did not do a lot in general.
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Poatan, he trains up around this way in New England, so I know a lot of
Mhm.
people cheer for him, but it's a tough stylistic matchup with Ankalaev, so we'll
Very
see
much
what
so.
happens. Julius, always great talking to you, my man. Can't wait to see you back in there. Before we do officially sign off, I want to give you the floor. Anything you want to plug, anyone you want to thank, the floor is yours, my man.
Dude, much appreciated. It's always a pleasure. Huge thanks to my family, my beautiful wife Paige, my daughters Rainey and Josie. Just my whole family in general, my little sisters, my mom, everyone, my team, my coaches, everyone that supported me going into this fight, my sponsors. It wouldn't have been possible without all of them. I got a crazy amount of support from the local community in Springfield. It was a really special thing for me, and I think that that's only going to continue to grow going forward. We got a lot of guys fighting out of Springfield right now that are getting to the point where they might start getting calls too. So I think it would be cool if we could build a little contingent of UFC fighters here in my hometown. I think that's something that people might see happening real soon. And then everybody follow your boy on Instagram, your favorite juice_box, and on X/Twitter at your fave juicebox, and then hop on the TikTok at juicebox MMA because I'm gonna become a TikTok guy. I keep saying it and it's gonna happen.